I spend the majority of my time trying to figure out how to help other people get what they're really after. I do this by speaking at events, writing books, working with coaching students, and sharing a lot of content. All of this creates a ton of questions from people that I can't always get back to, but now I can. This is the place to come where you ask your questions and I'll answer.
Okay, you know what's funny? I just thought of this, like, I probably should have checked, like, I was just at the gym sweating. No, and like completely like in gym clothes, like, yeah, exactly. This is clearly when Daddy should care more right now about getting in front of a camera and looking right. And I just thought of it now that I told her to hit record. All right. Hey everybody, welcome to #JJoffthecuff, episode 9. We're on this episode. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, but more importantly, who am I going to talk about it with? Over here, I've got my main men, right guys? Bam. Bam. What do we call ourselves, guys? We're the what pack?
Wolfpack.
Wolfpack, all right?
I tend to think of myself as a one-man wolf pack. But when my sister brought Doug home, I knew he was one of my own. And my wolf pack, it grew by one. So were there were two of us in the wolf pack. I was alone first in the pack, and then Doug joined in later. And 6 months ago, when Doug introduced me to you guys, I thought, wait a second, could it be? And now I know for sure, I just added 2 more guys to my wolf pack. All right. 4 of us wolves running around the desert together in Las Vegas.
All right, so I've got my main boys here who are going to stay quiet while we're actually in the show, unless I call on them, but they're good boys, so let's get back to it, guys. Let's get into answering your questions.
Our first question is, I have a situation that is troubling and I need your professional opinion. I am the top producer in my office and in the market area, which covers 3 major areas. I am unhappy with the manager of my office and it's causing me great distraction in my business. Most of my listing business has been in these 3 major areas. I am thinking of moving to an office that is next to my market area with the same company. However, it is also a different county. Moving to this other office can expand my market area and is also in a market area with a high average price home. Do you think this could hurt my business, and do you think it's a bad decision?
Thank you, Unknown, for the question. This is a question that that actually I get a lot, and it's, I always come down to what the motive is, right? So when you're looking at possibly moving an office, you're not crazy about the manager, there's a higher price point. I always feel like built into that question, the reason why you were telling me that there was a higher price point over in the other area, the other office that you're thinking about going to, is because somewhere underneath, deep down, there's something in you that wants to move to the other area, but is a little scared of moving to the other area, right? Because you wouldn't mention higher price point, because in your head, you're kind of trying to tip me over the scale to say, hey, that's a higher price point, go get it. So my questions would be, how far is it from your current office? Because you could technically probably still work both areas. There's nothing wrong with expanding your business. But if it was truly a question of just not liking the manager, I would guess that there's other people in your office who also don't like the manager. I would guess that the manager's not going to be there that long. I don't know that I would actually move locations or move offices just on a managerial issue, because they come and go. It's kind of like a manager in baseball. If you wait it out as a player and they're no good, they're going to move on and not be there forever. So it's tough to answer that question without knowing your exact situation, but I will tell you, like the old adage says, sometimes the best decision that you make, the best move you make, is the move that you don't make, okay? And I'm not necessarily saying that that's necessarily true in your case, but I am saying that it's possible that that's the case, okay? But if you absolutely just want to move on and you want to go try out that other area and you still can service your area, by all means. But one of the best ways to do that, if you're talking about trying to hit that higher price point in the new area, internet leads, Facebook ads, now Instagram's offered those, putting yourself in front of people where you don't have a client base currently. I wouldn't make a big deal of it to your current clients that you've moved offices, because you now bring up something as a potential issue that maybe shouldn't be an issue. I believe that we train people how to feel, and so the moment you send something out to all your clients saying, hey, I've moved to this office, but don't worry, I can still service your real estate needs, they probably think you can service their real estate needs completely fine, but because you brought it up to them, now they're questioning it and going, why is she trying to inform us that she can? Is it possible that she can't? So I wouldn't make a big deal about it with your current people. I would more so focus on the new market if you were going to make the move. If not, remember, one of the best moves you make sometimes is the ones that you don't make. Don't make a rash decision. Don't make that decision right now. Don't put a deadline of a week or two. Wait it out a month or two. See what happens with that manager. See if you're still feeling that way. Sometimes, 6 basic human needs, the need to change, the need for these kinds of things, they get the better of us, and we want to move even though we don't necessarily need to move. Many times that's why we switch jobs, because we find all the things we're not happy about. We need to move, and then we find out that it was just human nature. There's the same problems here that there were over here. So just be careful with that. I feel like that answer was all over the place, but it's tough not knowing your exact position. But I think based on your situation, if you eat up the meat, spit out the bones of what I just said, you'll come to the conclusion that's the best answer for you and your family. But don't make it rashly. Make sure you wait a month or two, see where you're feeling then make the decision.
Our next question comes from Jenny Lee Deptula, and she says, what would you say was your single most effective activity as a real estate agent?
Jenny Lee, I know you well. I think you're also watching right now on Periscope as well. That is a great question. That was the one question that I told you beforehand. Usually these are completely off the cuff, but I'm not going to lie to you. I saw this earlier and I've actually been thinking about it today. And the reason why I've given it thought is because there are so many different answers. It's like, what was the most effective? And my mind initially went to strategy, but then I thought to myself, it wasn't really strategy, it was more circumstance. And I'm going to give you the answer for my real estate business, but then I also want to tell you that things have changed in what I think your best answer is right now, right? So my best answer when I was at the peak of my real estate career was very simply just being in front of the right people and saying the right things, because that's what our most effective form of marketing was. It was all of the networking groups I was at. It was everything that I went to, always surrounded by people, always talking real estate. You know what, though? That's not the right answer. That's incorrect. I just thought about it even further. That's not the right answer. The correct answer is that my most effective thing that I did when I was selling real estate was me giving business to other people. It's not even close, actually, when I think about it right now. It wasn't even close. The one thing that I did better than anybody else when I was selling real estate was that I gave out a ton of referrals. I would look for what people needed, right? Like I would hear, if you're in our training, so you've heard me say this before, I would listen to what people would say and then I'd figure out what their need was and I'd figure out who I knew that could supply that need. And so if somebody talked about buying new stain for their deck, I'm like, hey, I've got an odd jobs guy. You wanna get a price for them to go and do your to stain your deck? And I would always be thinking like that. I'd always be thinking about how can I get people to my insurance person? How can I get people to my mechanic? How can I get people? And I was constantly, every single day, the one thing I did every day was that I was giving out referrals to other people. I was the source in so many circles. And what did that do? Natural inclination is that people want to reciprocate. And so they're giving back. They're giving back to me on a regular basis. So when I was selling real estate, that was the number one thing that I could do because it put me in front of, and it's really, things haven't really changed in the sense that what did that make me do? That made me contact people all the time. That made me in front of them. It made me have a ton of conversations. That made me all the things that work today, just some of the strategies have changed. So fast forward to today, I think that this is way under leveraged among real estate people, the idea of how many referrals they give out. I can tell you that on every single transaction I did, I probably gave out more than 20-something referrals for different things that people did. If you were to look right now how many you give out on a regular basis, and by the way, think of the number of transactions I was doing, that's a lot of referrals. If you were to think of it right now, how much of your day is actually spent thinking about how to give business to other people? I mean, probably not a lot, right? I mean, it's always, what can I do to build business? What can I do to take care of this client? What can I do to make this happen quicker? What can I do to create leads? What can I do to follow? What can I do? There's not a lot of focus on that end, and that's kind of been a lost art where it falls into what I say all the time, right? When you fish in a pond where other people aren't fishing, you tend to catch more fish. When you play on this level, when everybody's playing at this level, you tend to win. That was how I won, okay? Now, fast forward to today. If I was selling real estate today, I already know what I'd be doing. So I'd be following a lot of the stuff that you hear in our coaching programs and stuff, that you heard in the mastermind you came to in Vegas, that you'll hear at the annual advance in Vegas in October. I'd be following all our core things. I won't go over them right now. I'd still be doing a ton of referrals because that will never die. That is what it is. That's always going to work that way. Whenever you give something to somebody, there's always this. We were joking yesterday. Remember, we're like, you can't even give a present to someone without expecting a thank you card in return. Like there's this natural ingrained thing in us that when I give you something, you give something back. So even if I come to your event and give you a gift on a day that you're expected to have a gift, it is now expected that you give a thank you card back. That is how ingrained reciprocation is in our society. So use it to your advantage. The only difference I'd be doing today in today's world is, my God, I'd be killing the internet leads. My whole thing was, like, you ever met someone and they're like, if I get an interview, I get the job. Like, those are the types of personalities that are in real estate. And knowing you, Jenny, that is one of your things. You're very good in front of people. People tend to like you, like the whole thing. With the internet leads, I would be crushing it with internet leads. Like my budget would be off the hook on Facebook, soon to be Instagram, getting in front of sellers, getting in front of buyers. I would just be in front of as many people as I could possibly be, in addition to giving referrals, giving those kinds of things. That would be my advice to you.
Our next question is from Andy Wilson, and he says, my question would be how to best follow up on Facebook home valuation leads that just give an address and no additional information. What systems or method of follow-up are agents finding successful and worthy of their time for these type of leads?
All right, Andy, great question. As far as partial to full, it's a question that a lot of people have, and I'm reminded of one of our coaches actually came up with a thing where he said the harder people are to find, the easier they are to convert, and it's so true. So this question feels a little bit like a fastball because there's so many other, some things we just launched actually that I can tell you about, but when you have a partial lead and you only have an address, there's simple things, right? There's things like you can look them up in the town records and get additional information. You can use things like Cole Realty Resource, which is an additional cost, but it gives you additional information. We actually just launched something within our leads department where we are taking the majority of leads now before they ever even get to you, and they're converted to full. So just off of them giving an address, by the time that lead gets to you, you're gonna have an address, an email, phone number, cell phone, landline, people in the house, their mortgage dates, all of these kinds of things that other people aren't going to have, which again helps you. If you're using something like Wise Agent, Wise Agent is amazing because Wise Agent allows you, now this is a new thing they just launched too, where that address is pulled into your CRM. It's actually giving you their social links. So you've got their Facebook profiles, their Twitter profiles, Instagram, Pinterest, all of these places where, again, you're able to contact them, you're able to send them messages in a different place that nobody else is following up with them, and that is the key to closing partial leads.
Our next question is from Dana Berry, and she says, Jared, you work with a lot of people. What's the most frustrating excuse that you hear from them?
Dana, great question. Number one most frustrating excuse, and it's frustrating in the sense that, like, I feel for you, but I also know I can't care more about you than you do yourself. But I would say that it would be the excuse you hear all the time, which is, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, I don't have time for, and you get those kinds of things when I just feel like if we audited your time and looked at all the things that you're doing on a regular basis, you have plenty of time, right? Like, you have plenty of time to be playing video games. You have plenty of time to be watching Netflix. You have plenty of time to go to the gym, or in most cases that's your excuse for not going to the gym. You have plenty of time to play Candy Crush. You have plenty of time. Like, there's plenty of time for all these things which are eating up your time, but there's not time for some of the most important things that actually matter, right? The things that make you money, the things that allow you to actually hang out with your family because you are financially free, the things that is probably the most frustrating one that I hear on a regular basis.
Our next question is from Jennifer Long, and she says, I'm a big fan and can't wait to have you as the keynote speaker at our conference this fall. My question is simple. What drives you? Thanks for taking the time.
What? I'm not your romantic love. What was that? Like, batted his eyes.
Emma does that for my face. I'm like,
yeah, she's a girl. All right, you guys ready? Jennifer, great question. I mean, obviously for this, I've actually brought my boys in. Boys, you want to say hello? That's how you say it? What's up? Say hello. Right over here. Not over there, over there. Camera's over here.
Hello.
They're looking at Periscope, in case you're wondering. Yeah, so I mean, like anybody, I'll get a little deeper in this, but I'm obviously driven by my boys and that kind of stuff. But I'm more so driven by, you know, what I want them to see, right? I'm driven by the idea that I want to have a life that I control, that I do things based on what I want to do, not what I have to do, so to say, okay? I'm driven by the idea that, you know, it came out recently, James Harrison came out and he was talking about how he returned his son's participation trophies because he wanted to teach them a lesson that you earn trophies. Not everybody gets trophies, you earn them. I'm driven by the idea that I want them to understand that. I want them to get the type of life they deserve. I'm driven by the idea that, you know, recently it coming out, the whole minimum wage in areas at $15 an hour, and McDonald's coming out and installing kiosks and saying we can't pay $15 an hour. I'm driven by the idea that, you know, I don't ever want them to be in a position where that matters to them. You know what I mean? I mean, not to be offensive, but like if you're 35 years old and that actually applies to you, that you're still making minimum wage at McDonald's, that's not what our hopes are for our children. You know what I mean? I'm driven by things like that. I'm driven by showing them how to act normal on a video. I'm driven by a lot of different things that really come down to, I think people care about legacy and they care about all that kind of stuff, but I don't so much think about that as I do about really just instilling something that I actually get to watch happen in their lives when I'm still here. And I don't know if that's selfish or not, but it's just, I think when we say we love our kids, we love our family, we love all of these kinds of things, I think one of the greatest ways we can actually show that is by giving them discipline and giving them an example of how to actually have a successful life. Because if I'm just being 100% off the cuff right now, it drives me nuts when I see people like say how much they love their families, love their kids, love whatever, and then they do nothing but, you know, feed them poisons, act lazy in front of them, you know, talk just ridiculous, swearing like crazy in front of them, doing all of these kinds of things. And I think to myself, not that you don't love them, but if you really loved them, how about really showing them how to live a good life? That's what drives me.
Okay.
There you go. Out!
Yay!
Really? Really?
Have a good day. Ball's over there if you want to get it. And our last question is from Chris Walnowitz, and he says, Jared, how do you go about mapping your demographics used in digital advertising? And how do you reach the sweet spot between specificity and efficacy?
Chris, that is the first time that word has been used on this show, but it is a real word. Okay, Chris, that is actually a really good question, because I think that what's happened now in this digital world is that people have become almost too crazy about this, if I'm being completely honest, right? Like, we get clients who call in, and I won't give specific examples, but, you know, because we don't want them to know we're talking about them, because we're not. And they basically, you know, want such a specific criteria for their ads that it's like, you know, there's less than 1,000 people in the demographic. You're never going to reach anybody, right? And so I don't even know if it's so much about the demographics and such when you're actually targeting the ads as it is about the ad itself. Now, you want to be targeted. You want to, like I said, on Facebook, soon to be Instagram and others, you can do homeowners, buyers, these kinds of things. But your ad is what matters, because your ad is what's just going to catch somebody's eyeball. And I don't completely trust all the demographics to think that they're 100% accurate. So I'm more concerned with what somebody sees in an ad and what makes them act, because I only pay when they click it. So I'm only going to create ads that would apply to my demographic. You see what I'm saying? And so I guess what I'm saying is, my emphasis, although there's a little bit on the demographics, is not as much on the demographics. My emphasis is much more on the actual ads themselves, okay? Because that's what's gonna really get you to be more specific. It's one of the reasons why we're one of the few companies that, when it comes to creating seller leads for people, we are adamant that we say, looking to sell on those ads, while all these other companies out there say, no, you don't wanna say that, you're not gonna get as many clicks. Well, I'm not interested in having more clicks if they're not actually seeing something that says looking to sell first. first, because that's going to help me weed through that. And that doesn't have as much to do with my demographics as it does with the ad itself. That's it for today's #JJoffthecuff episode 9. Guys, if you have questions going forward, you can send them to me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever else you can possibly send them to me. Remember to use your #JJoffthecuff. You ask the questions, I'll answer them. Guys, have a great day.